Hello, welcome back to a new video. Today is a special one as it's a collaboration with my friend and fellow artist Jessica, and we are teaming up to create an art club. Jessica is a really talented artist and you may know her on Instagram or YouTube as Jessica Elena, and I'll pop her links down below. We've created Bloom Art Club, which will help inspire and motivate artists, and we'd love for you to join us. We're big believers in following our fun, experimenting with our artwork and not having any rules, just enjoying the process. So today I'm really excited to share with you our very first one, and let's jump into it.
So the first prompt for Bloom Art Club is self-portrait. Now I know those words can be quite daunting, and sometimes with prompt lists it can be hard to know where to start. With each prompt, Jessica and I will be creating our artwork and a video to go along with it to give you some ideas for how you can interpret it yourself. Drawing portraits, let alone one of yourself, can be tricky, so with this prompt, Jessica has created a really beautiful illustration and interpreted it in a really creative way, so you can feel free to do the same. For some reason, I took the tricky route because I really wanted to push myself with this one. I used to draw portraits of people all the time back at university, and so I've not done it in years and years, so I really wanted to try realistic portraiture again as a personal little push. I'm also using watercolour here, which again is something totally outside of my comfort zone. I'm so used to gouache and mixed media that I was a bit rusty with watercolour, and it's not something I usually reach for. Most of the mediums I use are really opaque, so it's a totally different technique and ballgame for watercolour because it requires lots of layers and patience to build up the transparency. Because a portrait and the anatomy of a face is kind of scary, I decided to make it a lot easier by dividing the portrait up into 4 squares and paint just a part of my face in each. It meant I didn't have to worry about messing up the sizing or proportions of one part, or making the whole face look right in one go because they sit in their own square. If you do want to do a traditional self-portrait for this challenge, then I definitely recommend this technique if you don't know where to start. So I began by taking some photos with my iPad, and I used those as a reference. I started with a base layer of purple because that looked like the main colours I could see in the undertones of my skin. I also read ages ago that starting with a base colour like this, sometimes blue, sometimes green, sometimes purple, really helps add to the realism of a portrait because the usual skin tone isn't just one flat colour anyway. Because the watercolour is so transparent, it definitely does help, I think, and with each layer it's not totally obvious that you used a wild colour. You don't necessarily notice at first when you see someone's skin tone. I didn't paint each feature in one go. Instead, I laid down base colours and then the next layers on all of them whilst I had the colours in my palette. It also sped up the process as I could work on another feature while the other layers on the other ones dried. I probably could have kept going with this stage. I could have kept layering it up and I'm sure it would have created a better result, but I was really keen to move on to the detail part. I always like adding in details no matter what the subject. I find it really changes the way things look, and at this point I was definitely panicking about the paintings because it felt so unfinished and unrefined, so I was really hoping that the detail stage would save it. I could have used a very fine paintbrush and used watercolour for the details, but I defaulted back to my safety net of coloured pencils and got out my tin of Prismacolours. The paper that I used was really textured, so I was pleased with how it held up with the watercolour paints, but it did mean that the coloured penciled layer was trickier. it meant that they picked up on the rough texture rather than being clean lines, which I think gives the final portrait quite a rustic, sketchy look. I used the pencils to add in a lot more details in the parts with my hair in, as well as elements like the eyelashes and lip details. I think the lips are my favourite feature that I painted, and the ear is my least favourite. I definitely didn't get the shading right there, and it feels quite flat compared to the other elements, like there's a really clear difference that one kind of stands out to me. I did find this whole painting process tricky, but also really rewarding. I was in two minds with it at first because I didn't know if I liked the result. I don't know if it's just because it's so different to what I normally paint, or if it just feels extra vulnerable because it's my face, but I am proud of the final result, and I think there's a definite likeness to me too. Finally, to make the piece feel a bit more finished and add some contrast, I added a navy royal blue background to each piece. I really love how this looks actually. It was a bit of a risk, but I definitely think it helps each feature stand out. Plus, when I peeled off the washi tape, it helped give some really nicely defined edges. As with anything, practice makes perfect, and seeing as I hadn't painted portraiture in years and years, I was expecting to be rusty. So I definitely see this as a success. I enjoyed the painting and really felt like I did push out of my comfort zone, which is a really rewarding thing to do. And while I don't have the same pride I do when I paint a landscape or something I find easy, I think it's a really good starting point, and I'm pleased for a first attempt at a new subject as well as a foreign medium.
Be sure to click the link down in the description or in the cards to go and see Jessica's wonderful interpretation of the prompt self-portrait and see her process for her illustration. We'd also really love it if you joined in, and you can do that by using the hashtag #BloomArtClub on any social media platform. We'd really love to be able to create a motivating and encouraging art community, and that's the point of Bloom Art Club. So if you do want to join in, then please do, and let us know if you're going to down below. I hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you again soon with a new prompt. For now though, I'll be back next Sunday with a regular creative video, and I hope you have a lovely week. See you later.